The Petrified Forest was a 1936 American drama directed by Archie Mayo, starring Leslie Howard, Bette Davis, and Humphrey Bogart in one of his very first roles. I recently reviewed the film Black Legion, which was also directed by Archie Mayo and starred Bogart. I really enjoyed that one, and I was curious to check out this other film that he also made, with a lot of familiar faces in it. Well, here's a summary of the film. We open up, and we are in a remote little cafe out in the desert in Arizona. The desert road from Vegas to nowhere. Yeah, alright, sorry. Some of the locals are chattering away. Porter Hall is an actor from movies like Thin Man and His Girl Friday. Plays Jason Maple. He's the guy running this little abandoned cafe in the middle of nowhere. A considerably younger Bette Davis is there as his daughter, Gabrielle. And early in the film, word gets out that Duke Mantee and his gang are out and about. Ooh. Well, Gabrielle's outside. She's reading her poetry book when Boze Hertzlinger, a big, lumpy guy played by Dick Foran, shows up. And he makes some sloppy overtures of his affections to her. And this is interrupted by this arrival of a mysterious stranger. He's Alan Squier, played excellently here by actor Leslie Howard. He's this curious character, asking where he is, giving ambiguous answers to Gabrielle, and, watching this, hearing how weird he was. If I didn't know better, I think he was like secretly some sort of supernatural entity arriving into town, Twilight Zone-style. But this is 1936, so it's probably too early for that kind of a theme in a film like this. So anyhow, Alan goes into the diner, he's eating a soup, while Gramps Maple, the character played by Charlie Grapewin, chats away with him. Now, Charlie Grapewin he's like watching Gabby Hayes. I love it. He's this cheerful, grizzly old coot who really wants a drink, that type of thing. Alan, though, seems more interested in meeting and talking to Gabrielle, and the two embark on this big conversation. She shares her interest in going to Paris, and he shares his background about how he's traveled through Europe and he left a wealthy wife and so on. And it's a bit of an amusing background, and he's interested in seeing some of her paintings. So off they go together to look at them up on a rooftop, followed by more pleasant banter. And look, we're about 30 minutes into the film by this point. It's largely just semi-romantic drama, with no Bogart in sight just yet, but hang in there. Well, Alan is about to leave, and he asks for a kiss. Oh, you know better, because wouldn't you know it, there's Boze to step in and get angry at just the right moment. But Alan moves on. He's going to get a ride out of town with Mr. and Mrs. Chisholm, actors Paul Harvey and Genevieve Tobin. But their car doesn't get very far away from this cafe before they're stopped by Humphrey Bogart as Duke Mantee along with his gang. He stops the car with his gun, and they all climb in. So he's like the tough guy criminal in this film. Well, meanwhile, back at the cafe, Gabrielle's alone. She's reading her poetry and crying. Boze shows up, tries to console and comfort her with some gum, but it's all short-lived, as soon Duke and his gang arrive. Now, one of the thugs, Jackie, is also played notably by Joe Sawyer, who was also with Bogart in Black Legion, which I reviewed recently. Well, Alan arrives back in time to meet up with Duke, and Duke, the tough guy, orders everybody to stay put, have a few beers, and don't make any wrong moves. So the film sort of shifts gears into a hostage narrative from this point on, pretty much to the rest of the film. By the way, side note, check out the clever placement of those antlers behind Bogart's head. I thought that was pretty cool. Well, the Duke character is an interesting one. This isn't Bogart as like the smooth criminal like some of his other gangster films, but rather he's this grizzled, dirty-looking thug on the run, and he really doesn't have that many lines in the film. Alan, meanwhile, kind of continues to wax philosophical about astrology and his destiny to be there and so on, and it's a fun balance of that whimsical character with the grisly criminal. And honestly, this film is less built around different scenery or much action, but it's more of just this heavy-duty character study. You've got the traveling philosopher, the beefy football hero, the dreamy heroine, the grizzled criminal, the goofy old man who just finds everything amusing, etc. They've all got their own story and are all very well represented here. I mean, this is a great example of how to do character writing in a film. It also feels very much like you're watching a theater production, more so than a movie. And yes, I know it was based on a theatrical production, but it's not often you kind of see a film that just feels so much like just watching a theater play. And I like that. It's really more about the dialogue and the interaction of the characters. Well, back to the story. Alan tries a ploy to get Duke upset. And when he gets closer to him, Boze makes a move for the gun. But his whole scramble is apprehended and he gets shot in the arm. Now Duke is getting angrier. But Alan has this weird scheme. And he says basically he wants to change his will that he's brought along with him so that if he is to die, the money will go to Gabrielle so that she can pursue her dreams of going off to France and so on. And it's this poetic, sacrificial gesture. Everyone thinks he's like this crazy martyr, but Duke agrees to it. Agrees to shoot him eventually. Well, Gabrielle comes back in a little bit later, having patched up Boze. Remember, he was shot, but before long, Duke's gang realizes that the authorities are on the way and they're closing in, and this is going to lead to a big old shootout scene. Well, what will happen? Will Alan and Gabrielle head off to France? Will Duke and his gang escape? Well, no spoilers. You got to go watch this one and find out for yourself. So, closing thoughts. Really like this one. It was very interesting to read that this was Bogart's first big break. Both he and actor Leslie Howard had played the same roles in the stage version of this story. So when Warner Brothers wanted to make this a movie, they wanted to put Leslie Howard in the film, but replace Bogart with Edward G. Robinson, who, I mean, to be fair, would have been pretty cool in the film. I mean, I think he's a great actor, but Leslie Howard insisted on Bogart, his friend, remaining in the film. He even threatened to drop out, so Bogart got the role. That's pretty cool, like the loyalty of the friendship. And even later in life, Humphrey Bogart would name his first child Leslie, in honor of Leslie Howard, in gratitude for that role of helping him to get started. Because, I mean, let's be honest, after this film, Bogart really just took off in Hollywood. The film is set in the Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona, but as I mentioned, it just looks very much like a studio. It's, again, just like watching a theater production, there really isn't much in terms of set changes. Every now and then we get out of the cafe, we're out in the desert a little bit, but not very much. It's, like I said, just kind of a heavy character study. It's a really good film. Bogart's character, Duke Mantee, was based closely on John Dillinger, the notorious criminal who in the 1930s was like the FBI's first public enemy number one. Bogart sort of resembled the gangster, and from what I read, he studied film footage of Dillinger for his role in the film. And he does really come across well as this creepy, cold-blooded public enemy number one in this film. And of course, Bette Davis was wonderful. She's so very young in this film, and really enjoyed her role here. And she's got Bette Davis eyes. This is the first film I've seen with Leslie Howard as well. He was excellent here. He's a great character. Clearly, he is this intellectual English fellow, smartest guy in the room with the dusty rural setting. I really enjoyed both his acting and his dialogue. Anyhow, wrap it all up. The acting was great. The dialogue, quick and entertaining. Really enjoyed this film, and that's The Petrified Forest from 1936. It's an early Humphrey Bogart, Bette Davis film. It's worth checking out.